Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guests, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunities facing SAP users today. So please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted to be joined today by Pepijn Visser, Vice President, SAP SuccessFactors Payroll Product Management at SAP, Stephen Burr, Vice President of Professional Services and Group Head of SuccessFactors for Zalaris, and Adam Frank, SAP Functional Lead at KCA Deutag. And I'm very sorry if I've mispronounced any of that, gentlemen. And in today's episode, we're going to be discussing the latest challenges, trends, and developments in the SAP HR and payroll space. And just before we begin, as we're recording this around Easter, I thought I'd ask what your favourite type of chocolate Easter egg is. And I'm not really going to believe if you say you don't eat chocolate, but anyway, mine, I think, is plain and simple. Chocolate buttons. I really love the Cadbury's chocolate buttons eggs. Obviously, there are other eggs, but that is my favourite. So, Stephen, what's yours?
Hi, Craig. Well, I definitely have a weakness for M&Ms, but it has to be peanut M&Ms. So I'm sure there must be an egg variety that has the peanut M&Ms in it. That would be my choice.
Ooh, you can get the bars of chocolate as well, can't you? Like that.
Yeah, very good.
And Pepijn?
Yeah, hi Craig. My favorite chocolate is certainly not peanut because I have a peanut allergy. So you're not going to please me with that.
Nope.
So any kind of chocolate, and I favorite white chocolate, to be honest.
Oh, nice. And Adam?
I think it would probably have to be the old giant Kinder ones, just because you get a nice big surprise in the middle. I don't know if you still do them anymore. You know, the ones that are about this big. And you can sort of get away because they've got the nice milk inside, so you can almost get away with it. You're balancing it out with the milk, sort of.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
But it's
that's
all
probably
about the
mine.
toy.
Of course it is.
Thanks very much, guys. And okay, so the topic we're talking about today is, where is the future of HR and payroll? And HR and payroll teams have faced many challenges, especially in the past 2 years. And, what I always see around the user group and our community is there's always something happening, especially in the payroll world. The impact of the pandemic has resulted in frequent payroll and HR changes, from furlough to remote working to employee engagement, talent management, etc. And businesses have had plenty to contend with on the HR front. With employees desiring better user experiences and a general move to digitization, SAP currently has two key offerings, my understanding anyway, to cater for those on HR and payroll. We have SAP Human Capital Management covering the whole space, and we also have SuccessFactors. And just to start off the discussion, I wondered, Adam, if you could just start by outlining what the key issues are that are facing HR and payroll professionals today.
As far as in the KCA Deutag world, we have a lot of individual international payrolls. So one of the major key issues that we have is trying to keep the work, which is individual per country, try and keep it within the short time frame we've got. One of our payrolls is a bi-weekly payroll. So that already presents itself with a problem issue. The workforce is, from my point of view, because I'm not dealing with them, is not a huge one. There's about 100 employees, but it's still a case of it's a short time frame. You're building up, you maybe take 3 or 4 days to actually get the one payroll ready. And then as soon as you've done that, you're closing it out and you're starting out the next one. So that's one of the main factors, is time, getting the data in. With that team, we've got also, it's a small team of one person. Okay. So again, it's workload and time combined. We don't have, in KCA Deutag, we don't have the benefits of the SuccessFactors, which from my perspective allows the user or the employee, if you like, to be able to take on a number of those tasks, making master data changes, putting in requests for whatever the options happen to be. So all of that comes back to our HR team, which of course increases the workload. If an employee wants to make a change to their name, we have a few apps. We can do some personal data changes, but anything to do with salary or payments like that, our admin team has to do with that. So we've got a lot of workload there. If you've got a team also, if your HR team is a team that has a lot of turnaround, so you maybe got an HR team full of temporary employees, you've got the added pressure of having to train them. Each time they come in, you may have a set of training guides, but are those kept up to date? Does anybody have the time to keep those up to date? So it really is, I guess, overall, it's the time pressure that we've got. If you have a system where you mentioned SuccessFactors, if you have a system whereby if I push this button, I know that it deals with all of these in the background and it's all linked up and it's connected and it makes my job a lot quicker. Employee Central, everything's in one place. Because we are primarily ECC core centered, there's a lot more customization there. So we've got a lot of custom programs. Again, if we need anything fixed, the HR payroll program's okay. I've expected it to work like this. Actually, I need it to work like this. So it's really a case of, I think, in summary, you've got the teams who they know what they have to do every month. That's not the problem. But it's making it simple enough for them to be able to do that and comfortably do it within the time they've got. I think is probably the main thrust that I would say.
Okay, thank you. Resource, time pressure, and
it is really in our situation. Yeah.
The amount of workflow coming through. Thank you. And Stephen, have you noticed, and what do you come across from your customers?
Yeah,
and I suppose from your business itself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think some of the things that are affecting our customers are affecting us as well. But in many ways, lots of the challenges haven't changed over the years. I mean, we know payroll is going to have changing rules, legislation, regulations. It's going to be a continual challenge over data privacy. We know, as Adam mentioned, there's the regular heartbeat of payroll. And if you have down to a weekly payroll, that's like pretty much a continuous exercise. It never feels like a break if you're a payroll professional with a weekly payroll to run. We also know there's recruiting, development strategies, motivating employees. These have been common challenges for a number of years. But I think maybe also what has changed, in my view, I think is we've seen much more the effect of our sort of interconnected global ecosystem. You think of COVID in the last 2 years, the Russian-Ukraine war, more recently, the expectations on diversity in our employee workforce, or the different age groups that we now cater for across the workforce, and what that brings in terms of age, gender, culture, expectations that they have. And I think another big thing we've seen, I think that affected particularly HR professionals, is the focus on employee well-being, both mental as well as physical well-being. That's become, thankfully, a more talked about topic. I think that's probably helpful. I don't think it didn't exist 20 years ago, but I think it's now more, spoken about, which is probably for all our benefits. And how do we engage with this workforce that is different in its makeup, different in its location, especially when they are remote, and really focusing on that engagement and productivity. So that can be a challenge to businesses and to employees. Some people like being remote. I mean, I've recruited people in the last 6 months where actually someone said to me, well, I don't want to be at home all the time. I actually want to be out. Whereas other people will say, oh, well, I have to travel much. So it's we're a consultancy business. We work with different customers. So, it can be a challenge in balancing what their role might be in the organization with their expectation of the individual employee. So, and then particularly in payroll, I guess the pace of change, lots of changes going on. If you think again of COVID, how many changes that introduced into a payroll professional's life in a short period with furlough, etc. The need for flexibility and being able to adopt those changes. I think Adam touched on another one when he said he has a small team. Not only tends to be in smaller organizations, smaller teams, but sometimes a struggle to find those payroll professionals these days. Are we actually recruiting and training a next breed of payroll professionals as a community. So I think there's probably quite a lot of challenges going on, but change is constant, and it's I guess in another few years, and maybe just be a different set of challenges.
Yes, so true. And on that point you were making there about well-being as well as one of the things. It is amazing what things like a pandemic brings to us, and that remote working where some people thrive, some people really don't, and don't like that isolation element, and what we've brought in. I mean, we've seen things in our community change quite vastly in the last 2 years, and we've been running well-being sessions and positive mental health sessions for that period, which have gone down really well, and give that added advantage. And I suppose from our perspective, it takes it away, not just an SAP kind of topics coming out there, because it is very important. So yeah, thank you for that, Stephen. And Pepijn, anything to add from your side?
Yeah, thanks. There's quite a lot of these topics already mentioned, but the COVID is certainly something that has changed a lot of the way we look at the software. There's loads of changes in terms of delays in payments that people have to make, compensation programs for employees, for companies, and we even see a lot of difference in time recording when people start to work at home now and suddenly have to record their time, whereas they didn't do that in the company they work for. Employee well-being, maybe I'm the first one to mention the word Great Resignation. It's interesting to see what kind of patterns that brings. Satya Nadella from Microsoft recently said that there's a third peak of working. Late in the evening, starts at 10, because people actually have 3 shifts in a day. So there's employee well-being and accommodating employees being somewhere else with different maybe taxation, because they simply sit somewhere else or they work somewhere else. That is impacting the way we look at it. If you see that, according to an Ernst & Young study, 77% of the workforce will work from home or partially work from home. That is a change there. From another perspective, we see the move to the cloud, of course, still driving a lot of discussions. There's 8 in 10 corporate data centers will migrate to the cloud by 2025. That is also driving a lot of the discussions. Data quality, also in that recent study from Ernst & Young, we see that the data quality, that is an old topic. I think Stefan mentioned it, but it is still one of the key problems to have the data quality right. So we have this still as the topmost compliance challenge. Last thing is that's driving discussions as well is the consolidation, that vendors are seeing a lot of cost pressure and need to consolidate the way they do this. So pressure on the operational model, the outsourcing, there's some changes there is going on. Okay, I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Okay, thank you, Pepijn. And just staying with you a moment, just to thinking about SAP specific solutions, what are the key differences between SAP HCM and SuccessFactors? You mentioned the journey to the cloud there, and data quality, and Adam earlier mentioned self-service and time and pressure and different things. So please tell us what are the differences from your perspective for customers?
It is in the end a trend that has started a long time ago to move the software to the cloud, because ultimately it's a better place for the software to be. So where the software used to be on-premise, it is clear that the future lies in the cloud, and we see that in all the key parameters, also in the sales. So the difference is really is a matter of more modern approach to the maintaining and driving this the software. And so from an investment perspective, we look at it and say, okay, well, all our innovations will be directed to the cloud because we see that part moving. So, and that investment focus plays into a lot of components, a lot of functionality, and a lot of throughout the whole stack of the software in this sense to see those differences. And of course, there's a higher degree of standardization, right? So in the cloud, we have not the possibility to have an own system. So it's a bit of a paradox because it's not wanted by a lot of customers because they really like being having individual software. But then again, they also want it because they also see that all the customization is more a cost driver and it's something that they dig in. So it is that is certainly a difference between the cloud and the on-premise. The flexibility that you have in the on-premise world is helping you, but it's also a hindrance. So customers would have to live with a higher degree of standardization. From a usability perspective, there's also quite a lot of difference in the on-premise world, especially if you look at our ERP system. The system was built in the 70s, 80s with programming models from that. So it's over 40 years old, and usability improvements can be done there, but it's certainly not going to be something that we can leverage very much. The new generation of people working with software is used to things like Amazon and Google, so much higher standards of usability, which we cannot do with the on-premise system. So it is good, but usability improvements will be mainly in the cloud. From a process perspective, there is not an awful lot of changes that you can do in the cloud or in on-premise, although there are a set of differences, and it also has to do with what I said, the investment focus that we have, that we say, well, we develop in the cloud, but there's subtle differences like freezing master data in productive run or correction run that you do on premise, but not in the cloud anymore. It's not necessary. There's payroll tasks, there's access to pay statements. So some differences, and it's a whole lot, but a whole lot of smaller ones. It's maybe not necessarily changes that are very business case driven. But in the end, it's where the investments also and the innovations also in the payroll processes go. Now, finally, the whole application management and the infrastructure is a topic we prepare. We take a lot of the responsibility that customers normally have, of course. We take that now on ourselves and say, okay, we make sure that we have a stable infrastructure. We make sure that the systems are secure. We make sure that the systems are maintained. We can much better keep the systems up to date, operate it better. So it is a transfer of responsibility, but also a transfer of cost to SAP, to moving in the cloud. Yeah, so those are some of the abstract themes. Of course, they can dive into some of the details there, but those are the main categories, I would say, of the differences.
Okay, thank you. And Stephen, from your perspective?
Yeah, well, a lot of what Pepijn said I completely agree with, but fundamentally the technology is completely different. On-premise is a module on the ECC or HANA platform. As Pepijn says, some of that technology is dating back 40 years or so. SuccessFactors is a true SaaS solution, so let's not lose sight of that. It's one code base. That means every customer in the world is basically run one version of the product. Obviously, they might have their own configuration that makes it behave to suit their business processes, but fundamentally the product is on one code base. The hosting is a big important topic, as Pepijn mentioned. It's a difference in responsibility. The on-premise is your infrastructure. You have to buy a server, build a server, host a server, connect the server, make sure it's secure responsibility. Whereas SAP are taking a lot of that under the cloud environment with their security maintenance and through the operations. Commercially, important for customers, and if you go and see a finance director, this will be the topic they want to talk about, is there's a big difference between a big CapEx expenditure, a big cost up front with some ongoing lower maintenance costs, but potentially some in-house costs as well, versus a full sort of subscription model or OpEx approach with the cloud. So all those things become important to customers, different parts of the business. HR might be interested in one aspect of that, finance in another, whoever's responsible for payroll will be interested in different aspects of that. And as the business now adopts cloud, they will have to change how they then work with their solutions in that environment. So when it comes to upgrading their solutions, on premise, it was kind of a case of maybe when IT could be, I won't say bothered, when IT could be, what's the right word here? Maybe not bothered, but when it was became down to suit their schedule into IT, and that might not suit the needs of what HR wanted at that time or finance wanted at that time. Whereas cloud, there's a published and regular release schedule twice a year. We're just about to enter a new one for SuccessFactors as we come into April. We're getting the preview versions and the early release information, and they will hit people's productions environments in May. And they will contain a whole host of updates. I think there's something like, I've had a quick peek already at the list, and there's 331 features and functions being released in this SuccessFactors release next month. So there's a lot of new stuff coming all the time. And the businesses, again, as I mentioned, learning how they work with a cloud solution. So they'll be thinking about how they'll configuration versus customization. There's differences there. Again, Pepijn just mentioned this really, but configuration will allow you to do a lot. Maybe you could customize more with on-premise, but maybe the limitation is sometimes a good thing because it helps you with an ongoing maintenance as you move forward. So I think there's a lot of difference. I think the other thing I would just say about cloud is internet and mobile by default ready, however you want to phrase it, but ready to go, built into it. It's in the mindset. The internet aspect of that allows you kind of a wider range of access, allows you to think about all the other things you could do with the internet, where there's plug-in services that can be enabled, etc. And mobile is allowing connectivity that was, mobile in cloud. If I asked a SuccessFactors consultant to set up mobile in a SuccessFactors instance, genuinely they would do it within under an hour. Well, they could do it. I know there's a whole lot of other questions that Pepijn might raise about it, but technically it is possible. So the technology is not limiting me in under an hour to have a mobile environment. But if I was doing that on premise, it would raise a whole set of other questions, about infrastructure, access, gateways, firewalls, and we'd be onto a completely different path. I think the other thing with cloud as well, it doesn't quite have the same prerequisites that on-premise had. So the SAP used to say, I think they probably do still say, start anywhere, go everywhere. You can make use of the learning functionality or the recruiting functionality without necessarily needing Employee Central as your core HR system. So those kind of barriers have been broken down. So again, it helps organizations and our customers are looking at and going, well, what does our business need right now? What should we do next? What is our roadmap? Not what does the IT technology path look like that we have to follow to get to the answer we want? And I think that's a big difference. Maybe that's a few of the things. And the only other thing I would say really on the two solutions and cloud is, I guess cloud is an answer, not necessarily the full answer to transform your business. It's probably an enabler to transformation, which I'm sure we'll talk about more as we go through today.
Thank you. And Adam, from a customer perspective, do you have anything to add?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of it's a case of, please see above. Pepijn and Stevens covered a lot of points, and you may have seen me sitting there frantically scribbling little notes and nodding my head. So I agree with a lot of the points and comparisons between it's slick versus stayed in the mud. It's almost a comparison between a library and the internet. The mentality side of things from a customer endpoint, certainly from my point of view, I've been working with on-prem for 15, 20 years, however it is now, and you get into the mindset of, okay, I know this system. I know what it can do. I know what we're not currently doing, but what I can give you. I know that the online space SuccessFactors will give me more, but it'll take me a long time to get there. Whereas I can give you a custom program within a day or two. The development team probably won't want to hear me say that, but I can give you a custom program. Same with you, Stephen. The functionality is there. Yeah, the technicality is there. But you realize from a customer's point of view is at some point you have to move away from what is almost as slick as on-prem is going to get towards it's kind of an overused phrase. This is the way the world is going. Let's be honest. It's online. It's the way the world is going. Like Stephen and Pepijn both said, everybody these days and the next generation coming up are used to this way of working. Can I go on my mobile phone and do this? Can I go on my iPad and do this? Other electronic devices are available, obviously. We have in the KCA Deutag world, we've got a lot of remote locations on the rigs. It's easier for them to log into their phones when they're in an airport waiting to get out to the rigs, on the rigs or whatever, than it is to give everybody a user ID into SAP. That gives our S&A team a big headache. Hey, I need you to get in here. Do I let the admins do everything? Then you've got splitting back out to the workforce. Once you get the apps coming in and the SuccessFactors, okay, you're an employee, do your own timesheet, get it done. We then know that it's correct because you've put it in, rather than all the other hassles. The also things about the release schedule and support packs, that's a great point that was brought up. I think it was Stephen that maybe brought that one up, the release schedules. We currently have a release schedule set up. We put in the sync packs. That's what we do twice a week, twice a year. And the business are always, oh, here it comes. It's a necessity. We know we need it, but it's test, departments, just expands everywhere. Whereas if we know from an online point of view, SuccessFactors, it's coming in, it's in, we just do it. You just come to expect it and it becomes part of your workload. So that, I think, is definitely the way to go. The point that Stephen made there, is it a almost one or the other? I don't think it is. I think there is a place for a combination. I agree. I'm personally myself getting more down into the MyHR apps recently. We have a few, 3 or 4 of them that, as I say, allows an employee to do personal data, but there's so much more out there. There's like 65 different HR apps out there specifically, some of which we can see a direct usability for, some of which the business may not know they already want and already need. And this is, again, another mindset. The business also almost know. It was something that Pepijn and Stephen were both saying. I was trying to get my head around how to express it from a customer point of view. The business, the HR and payroll teams will know what the ECC system will do up to a point. And because you've taught them the ECC system, they can almost have an idea behind a couple of the doors. Okay, I know I've got a program that does this, so I think I can probably ask for a program that does this, and functionality and core. But once you start getting into the SuccessFactors, it's really a closed door. Because until the technical guys, the IT side, the functional support guys, gain the knowledge of that, the business really have no idea what they can get from this. But I think once we open that door, they'll go, oh, for heaven's sake, yes, I want this, and I want that, and I want that, and I want the other. And it'll so much reduce their, going back to what I originally was saying, their workload, because it makes it slicker and easier. The screens are so much nicely laid out. So I definitely see the improvement of the online, and I can't wait for us to get there. I really can't. I hope my boss is watching this. We are definitely driving towards that. And the SAC, it's not just the HR and payroll thing. It's something that links into that, the SAC, the analytics cloud. Of course, you've got the higher echelons of the guys who are currently getting custom reports out of SAP. You get them as analytics cloud, and they can just, okay, great, wake up in the morning, there it is on the screen, whatever reports they want. So I can't wait to be able to deliver them that. I'm just really looking forward to the roadmap, honestly.
And I think, Adam, it's great to see that the SAC is being developed across I think the enterprise of SAP, and it's in HR and payroll now, with people analytics, and I think that strategy was a little bit confusing, if I can say so, for 2 or 3 years ago back. But now is a lot clearer, and the SAC product, we actually use it internally as well, Zalaris, some headcount analytics. We even put our employee engagement scores are published through SAC, SAP Analytics Cloud as well. So yeah, I think the route ahead for analytics, including HR analytics, is a lot clearer in my view now.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only point I've gone to a couple of presentations, is the time evaluation side. We use time evaluation a lot. There's been a couple of small, minor introductions on the online premise into time evaluation from SAP, but I think the drive now is almost a third-party type thing. I'm not sure whether I'm starting to get contentious into a different area or what, but that's the kind of development area I'd like to see from our perspective. Obviously, we've got a lot of rigs, so we've got a lot of time evaluation coming in. But yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
Thank you, and thank you all very much. And I'd just like to pause our conversation there, if I may, and thank you for your insight so far. And to our listeners, I hope you're enjoying the conversation we're having at the moment. And we'll be back with part 2 of this episode to start looking at kind of, what are the learning curves, what are the implementation options that you may have and factors you need to think about, and also look towards the future of payroll. And okay, so until we come back in the second episode, I hope you've enjoyed this discussion so far, and until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing your hands.